Hey, what's going on everyone? It's LJ. You know, one question I get asked fairly often is, where exactly is your music room? You know, and like any good music room or man cave, the entrance is a closely guarded secret. But since I know you won't tell, and it's vinyl update time, and it's kind of chilly out here, I don't mind you guys knowing. Come on, let's go. Whew, it's cold out there. So now you know where the music room is. It's our little secret. Thanks for joining me. As promised, it's time for a vinyl update. But not just any update.
A rock and metal update!
What's going on everyone? It's LJ, and it's time for a rock and metal update. First off, we're going to start with a package from fellow vinyl community member, Brother Greeno. Brother Greeno picked up an album that I had been looking for and he had run on the watch for out in the wild. He found a great price on it, I was happy to reimburse him, and here it is. Metallica's Garage Days. This copy is 100% dead mint, unplayed. Condition was amazing. My copy I had had since it came out, and it had pushpin holes in the corner where I had hung it on the wall. Hey, I wasn't always a cop. I fractured an occasional law or two. Now, I didn't know there was anything more than that in the package when he sent it, but of course it wouldn't be Greeno without, so I regret not having done a live opening. So here's what else was in the package. First was Heretics, and this is from 1988. I actually did not know what this was. Heretics turned out to be, and it's a private press, more of like kind of punk garage. So a lot like a great companion to like Motorhead. It was just an awesome album. The second one in the package was Birdhouse. I had never heard of Birdhouse before. I don't think this one is a private press. Maybe, I don't know. And this ended up being really all over the map. It was a very cool album. And, you know, it had moments where it was really hardcore punk, and then it had moments where it was really hard rock, like The Cult, and then there was a couple of moments, Hurricane in My Head, where it was just kind of like 90s alternative, but ahead of its time, kind of like Jesus and Mary Chain. Really very, very cool album. Took me a few minutes to wrap my head around. Also in that package, Greeno's a huge fan of October 31, or October 31st, and he's turned me into one too. And this is a single from their new album, Bury the Hatchet. This was very cool. So it has the lead single from Bury the Hatchet on the A-side called Gone to the Devil. And the real surprise was on the B-side was a song called Too Scared to Run. That's a Uriah Heep track. And not just any Uriah Heep track. A Uriah Heep track from what I think is their best album when they got their most heavy metal, 1982's Abominog. So Gone to the Devil is a great song, but Too Scared to Run, honestly, completely took the cake. Man, they just killed that cover. Greeno threw in a couple CDs as well, been carrying them around. First is Circus of Power, Still Alive. This is on Metal Blade Records. And second was the new October 31st CD, Bury the Hatchet. Killer artwork, fantastic album. If you know October 31st, then you know October 31st. They just do what they want to do, no apologies, bottom line, end of story. So, let's get on with the rest of this. So first up is the second album from Ram, and this is one of the Ram albums that I was missing. So I've made a huge effort over the past few months to ramp up the Ram collection. Ram is on High Roller. This is their second album. It's absolutely amazing. If you're not familiar with Ram, Ram is a lot like Judas Priest would be the closest comparison that I could pull for you. But not like late 80s Priest, like stained glass, British steel, kind of that era of Priest. This album is powerful, it's haunting, it's on white vinyl, which, as much as I'm not a fan of colored vinyl, I really do think white vinyl is pretty cool. The insert for this one is just awesome. So when you open it up, you have the gatefold here, and then the gatefold itself, which is pretty much all in hieroglyphics, so I have absolutely no idea what they're trying to say in here, opens up again, so it's a big 4-pager. Ram is just a killer band. If there's one song that you can look up on here on YouTube to get an idea of what Ram sounds like, it would be Titan. I believe Titan is on YouTube, and it's an amazing album. It's full of huge bass lines, really, really heavy, solid, dirty riffs. Ram's latest album is called Death. And this is that, and I picked this up a couple months ago too, and I'll be showing this probably in the next update. I just want to spin it a few more times and really keep getting my head around it. Next up, here's a band that's been inactive since 2000, and not only do they come back with a trinity, a 1, 2, heavy metal punch, just like Overkill and Accept before them. This is Artillery, and this is My Blood. Now, besides having a disturbing cover, I was super psyched to find this in the wild for a killer price. Labels on this one are awesome. So again, I'm not a huge fan of colored vinyl, but this one was on red. So had I had the opportunity to order it online, I definitely would have chosen black vinyl, like I always do. But when you find it out in a shop for a killer price, man, it could be on pink splatter butterfly vinyl. I wouldn't care. Artillery, if you're not familiar, is huge riff-oriented music, kind of like Metallica, but not load, reload, Metallica or Saint Anger. Earlier than that, stuck maybe like somewhere between Justice and the Black Album. Just killer guitar work. It's an awesome album and definitely worth checking out. Here's one that I've had a hard time getting off the turntable since it showed up, and there's a couple here like that, and that's Heavy Tiger's Saigon Kiss. Heavy Tiger is a 3-piece girl band, all rock and roll, raw, perfect, and addictive. They are from Sweden. This is a high roller release, so it's got the really nice thick cardboard stock. Here's the insert that came with it. Heavy Tiger is a new band, and they're really just teenage girls. Now, let me think if I can think of another all-teenage girl hard rock band that really made a stack of Marshalls buzz like a hive full of bumblebees. Runaways? 9 songs, under 30 minutes, an absolutely killer album. But not just Runaways. You've definitely got huge other elements in here too, from like Thin Lizzy and Kiss. It's just that kind of rock and roll. This is just a chainsaw of an album. It's amazing, and its only flaw is that it's over too soon and they don't have another album out yet. So girls, if you're watching this, let's go. More material, come on. If there's one track you could look up on YouTube, check out Saigon Kiss. They shot a video for that. Very cool stuff. Now, in my last update, I believe it was, I showed you Screamer's second album, Phoenix. I told you this was an amazing album and I was having a hard time getting it off the turntable. And you know what? That's true. What I picked up a few months before that and realized I never showed was Screamer's first album, and that's Adrenaline Distractions. Also on High Roller, which has become my absolute favorite label, there's the insert. How does Adrenaline Distractions differ from Phoenix? In a few ways. Here's the insert that came with it. Like Phoenix, Adrenaline Distractions is just galloping, goes on and on and on and on, galloping rhythms, killer leads, fantastic drum sound. Adrenaline Distractions is also maybe a little more heavy and aggressive and a little less sing-along than Phoenix. Both are freaking amazing, absolute high-octane new wave of traditional heavy metal. Do not miss Screamer. Alright, so not exactly metal, but that's why they're called rock and metal updates. Here is Rush, Spirit of the Airwaves. This was recorded live on the Permanent Waves tour in St. Louis, Missouri. I got this when it came out, and that was probably back towards the beginning of the year, and I've just never shown it. This has the entire 2112 suite, which I think is a little overrated, or maybe I'm just kind of getting tired of it after all these years, minus Oracle. Otherwise, it's just all killer tracks that stretches all the way back to the beginning. It's a 2 LP set, and I believe they pressed 1,000 black and 1,000 gray. So the question is, how does it stack up against the other Rush bootleg pressed to vinyl, and that's ABC, the First American Broadcast from 1974? And the answer is simple. It sounds a lot better, and with good reason. The band's had an extra 6 years to mature, and that was aired on FM radio, and I believe this was aired on AM radio. Next is one I wasn't sure I would pick up, but speaking of the Runaways, here's Joan Jett and the Blackhearts Unvarnished. You know, this just is what it is. Joan's not going to break any new ground or make any apologies to anyone at this point, and she doesn't need to. So what that means is it's just simple lyrics, simple chords, simple vocals. It's just simply Joan Jett. It is what it is. And it's a great album. It turned up for a killer price in a shop one night, and I just couldn't say no. So I've definitely already spun it through once. I haven't listened to it a second time yet. But again, on that first listen through, it was just Joan Jett. It was what it was. It was a great listen. I would definitely recommend picking it up. Now, here's an album I picked up 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Black Country Communion is Derek Sherinian, Joe Bonamassa, Glenn Hughes, and Jason Bonham. This was a really, really good album, a really solid listen. But Black Country Communion is no more. So half of them took off and formed California Breed. So in California Breed, you have guitarist Andrew Watt, Jason Bonham, and Glenn Hughes. Now, Glenn Hughes has the most heavy metal hair and voice of any 60-year-old eligible for a discount at your favorite breakfast house than anyone I've ever met in my life. How does California Breed differ from Black Country Communion? It's heavier, it's thicker, and it's
ballsier.
And that is because, in my opinion, Derek Sherinian and Joe Bonamassa are gone. Ended up being a real grower. Kind of the more that it spun, the more I got into it. I almost left this one behind, and that would have been a huge mistake because it turned out to be a really, really good album. Now, next up is the album that absolutely will not get off the turntable. It took a very, very serious album to even pry this thing off the slip mat. And that is an album that was found by accident. It's Amulet, the first. And it's appropriately titled because it is their first album. Amulet is a new wave of British heavy metal band. New wave of traditional heavy metal, new wave of British heavy metal band. Because they're a new band playing new wave of British heavy metal. In any case, I had sent an email to Brother Greeno and asked him to check out a video on YouTube. He sent an email back with a link, said, yeah, that's great, but did you catch this? And it popped up on the side as a suggested video. And I hadn't caught it. And as soon as I watched it, and as soon as he watched it, the orders were placed right then and there. This album is insane. Insane. Comes with a full-color poster, which is very cool. It's right there. Lyrics on the flip side. Never, ever, ever before, since I first sat and listened to Iron Maiden's Killers for the very first time, all those years ago, did I feel like I was listening to Iron Maiden's Killers all over again. Amulet is amazing. Just got that sound. Or maybe Agent Steel, or maybe Satan, or maybe Witchfinder General, or maybe... So how do you get an album like Amulet off the turntable? You gotta be big. You gotta be bad. You gotta be Ace Frehley. Here you go. Space Invader. This is the US pressing of the Space Aces' newest and greatest album since Frehley's Comet's debut. This is the US vinyl. It's black. Absolutely amazing album. Ace's best work easily since his first album with Frehley's Comet back in the mid-80s. Noticeably missing is Anton Fig on the drum kit. Anton has supported Ace all the way back from the solo album in the late 70s. He's not here, and filling in is, I believe, is Matt Starr, or Mark Starr, I think it's Matt, from Bang Tango on the drum kit. Nothing wrong with it, sounds amazing, just curious where Anton went. It's killer. There's not a single bad moment on it. Ace just let it freaking rip. Start to finish. Rinse, repeat, flip, and cycle. Killer album, don't miss it. Here's an album I was stoked to find in the shop and still in the shrink one night. I just couldn't believe my eyes. Dig, dig, dig. Yanked it out, took it straight home, and that is Hellion. This is from 1986, or 84, or 83. The back cover is a complete homage to a mansion in California where the band lived, recorded, and played their very first show. This particular copy was released on New Renaissance Records. It was independently released by the band, I believe it's a 4-track EP first in 1983. Music for Nations picked them up and made it into a 6-track EP, which this is, and the band then later re-released on their own label, New Renaissance Records. It's new wave of British heavy metal mixed with early, like 84 era Dawkins. Absolutely killer album. Definitely not one you want to miss. It's heavy, it's hard, it makes no apologies. Fantastic mid-80s heavy metal. Great album. Next up is 1989's Victory, and this is Culture Killed the Native. Victory is either his band or a band he was in, whatever, from Accept Herman Frank, guitar player. This is a West German press on Rampage. It's a little less aggressive than anything Accept was doing in the early 80s, but again, from 89, you know, your competition is things like Babylon AD or whatever the Scorpions are doing at that time. And I love all that stuff, and this sounds pretty similar to all of it. It's an absolutely fantastic album, full of great leads, great drumming, just overall a really, really good 89 metal album. There's 2 left. You ready to finish this off? Now, a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, or at least on an island somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean, there was a band called Vixen. No, not that Vixen. A band called Vixen that then became Aloha. And that band Aloha then became Hawaii. Here's an album I've wanted in my collection for a long time. And I'm sure some of you out there know about it, and some of you out there know who that is. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? 3, 2, 1. Marty Friedman. So prior to joining or forming Cacophony, and then later going on to Megadeth to record Rust in Peace, Marty Friedman was in Vixen, Aloha, and Hawaii. This was an absolutely killer album. I could not believe I was able to turn up a near mint original private press of this. Bad Boys of Metal is the first song, and it was a little Quiet Riot-ish. There's nothing wrong with Quiet Riot, but it's not what I was expecting. But then Loud, Wild, and Heavy and Escape the Night just turned into punishing, ear-damaging songs, playing for keeps, here to stay. Throughout the album, hearing it in hindsight and knowing Marty so well from his stuff with Megadeth, you can hear Marty all over it. But definitely a killer album. The artwork is insane. It's not an album I'm ever going to see again, and the time to grab it is when you see it. Wrapping it up, here's the second and last album from Detroit-based Seduce. This is Too Much Ain't Enough. This is from 1988. Their second album, was really good. Their first album was really raw, really gritty, like early Motley Crue or Wasp. The first side of this was, they have some new members in the band, and it was a little more commonplace for the time. Here's the insert that came with it. A little more commonplace for the time, kind of like newer Crue or something like that. And then as soon as I flipped it over, it was like they kind of made a unanimous agreement. Let's record half the songs like our debut, more heavier, more grittier, and the rest a little more modern. However it came to pass, this is a really, really, really good album. It's not one that's ever going to win any awards for being the best 80s hair metal album ever, but it doesn't need to. It's just a killer piece to have in the collection. It was a great album. And so that's it. So, now you know where the music room is. Feel free to stop by anytime. Make sure you wipe your feet. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to leave a comment if you have one. And I'll see you in the next update. Later.